Wouldn't it be nice to be more chill? To finally catch a break from the rush of thoughts and worry ongoing every day? To not end the day like a fried little chicken wing from the constant stress? But what if neuroscience could teach us a different way to handle constant stress? This is Qué Onda, where we explore the neuroscience of mental health. I'm Bia, a neuroscientist, and today I'm going to teach you about how stress is signaled from the brain to the body and one way you can use neuroscience to combat it. Okay, you should know that I am not a naturally chill person. I know, what a surprise. I have had to work very hard to learn about what it takes to be chill. In fact, I have dedicated an embarrassing amount of time into doing deep dives on stress signaling and mental health so that I could learn a little about how to be more chill. And it's to your benefit because now I can just tell you what I've learned and you can copy my homework just like you did in 8th grade, Matthew. Anyways, let's put that aside before I get too upset and start by learning, how does stress signaling happen in your body? So when we're under stress, our brains are alerted to the stressor in the environment, and it starts to send signals to the rest of our body within milliseconds, communicating that there's something important in the environment. This activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is a network of nerves that communicate the fight or flight response and control behaviors to prepare against that stressor in the environment. The sympathetic nervous system uses the hormone and chemical norepinephrine, you might know this as adrenaline, and that sends signals to all sorts of organs like your heart and your muscles and your brain to prepare your body for fight or flight. Your heart races, your pupils dilate, and blood is sent to your brain and your muscles. This is a really important adaptive response to handling stressors in our environment, and it's really important for our survival. If you're stressed out for a while, cortisol jumps in to alert your organs to prepare for a longer fight or flight. And one way it does this is by altering the metabolism of nutrients in the body. So, cortisol will actually release sugar in the simplest form through its downstream mechanisms, and that allows our brains and our muscles to be supercharged and highly energized for whatever we're facing. Once the stressor has been handled, your brain communicates the signal to the rest of the body that it's okay to relax. And this is when your parasympathetic nervous system can activate. That's another network of nerves that is in control of the rest and digest response. So it acts in opposition to the sympathetic nervous system and allows our bodies to calm down. The thing is, experiencing repeated negative stressful events can heighten and strengthen our sympathetic response, our fight or flight response. And that is actually what we call increasing the sympathetic tone. You can think of this like a muscle, just like how our muscles are toned. We have sympathetic tone and parasympathetic tone. On the other hand, while our sympathetic tone gets strengthened, our parasympathetic tone begins to decrease. A clinical example of this process is in post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. And this is a collection of distressing symptoms that occur after experiencing or witnessing a deeply traumatic event or collection of events. PTSD has loads of symptoms. Some include nightmares or avoiding triggers that might bring back the memories, as well as feeling emotionally numb. If you or someone you know is struggling with PTSD or any of these symptoms, reach out to a trusted pal or healthcare provider. Some therapies and medications may help, and new solutions are being researched every day. So, back in 1998, scientists were observing that people who had PTSD were presenting with their hearts beating faster than people who didn't have PTSD. So, this early finding led to many more studies that showed that people with PTSD had a larger sympathetic nervous system response, and that in fact those responses were stronger after experiencing those traumatic events and developing PTSD. You should note that having a really strong sympathetic response during an event means that you might remember the event more deeply, but of course there's an extreme to where something being too intensely emotional could interrupt the memory storage and the memory retrieval. On the opposite side, parasympathetic tone was found to be decreased in people with PTSD. So, this means that it was harder for people to relax while they were experiencing PTSD. And this is one of the main symptoms of PTSD is this feeling of being on edge and not able to relax, and even having a really, really intense response to whenever you hear loud noises or something slams on the ground. And that is called the startle response. And it's thought to be due to this exaggerated sympathetic tone, really strong sympathetic tone, at the same time having really weak parasympathetic tone. Okay, now that we talked a little bit about how stress is communicated throughout the body and the difference between sympathetic tone and parasympathetic tone, how do we be more chill? How do we get our parasympathetic tone up? One option is a medical surgery under vagus nerve stimulation surgery, and that's actually where a stimulator is implanted into a person. It's an electrode that sends pulses to the 10th cranial nerve so that the signaling and the tone of the parasympathetic nervous system can be controlled. And this is usually done in epilepsy, but also in really extreme cases of PTSD and in some research contexts of PTSD. But that's pretty intense and requires a medical doctor to prescribe that to you and to offer that to you. So let's talk about at-home solutions that you can try today. So that includes massage, yoga, combining the deep breathing with the long, slow, stretchy poses are really great for parasympathetic tone, as well as deep breathing in general. So there is something to this whole meditation thing, and parasympathetic tone is one way we can access more calm. Exercising broadly seems to really help, especially over longer periods of time, and something as simple as going for a walk definitely counts in this context, as well as a cold shower. I haven't looked into all the research on that, but I'd be happy to talk more about why cold showers. And the more we practice being in the parasympathetic chill state, the more our parasympathetic tone will improve and the easier it will be to get back into that state with time. This is something that I have been trying to practice and growing my practice for many, many years. And honestly, sharing this information with all of you has motivated me to do a deep dive into the research and to really think about how I can expand my practice of these things. So thank you for sharing it with me. I am right here with you 100%. Neuroscience has so much to share with us. We'll talk more about PTSD, mental health, cold showers, and whatever else you're interested in here on Qué Onda. And in the meantime, cuídate. Nos vemos.